Hey, what's up, YouTube? I'm back with another radio video, and today I am going to show you a modification that is a very popular modification for this antenna. This is the MLA-30 Active Loop Antenna, and it covers from 100 kilohertz up to 30 megahertz. And this is aka the cheap Chinese loop. Of course, you can buy this on eBay, and you can buy it. I believe AliExpress sells it now. So this is my second one. I already did the upgrade on the one that's on the roof. That one has the BNC, and it has a copper tube as the element. So this is going to be my second one. I'm going to remove this cable and put the BNC connector. And that's why I'm making this video. Eventually, I will get a third one and leave it as is, stock antenna, so that one I can just use it for when I travel. It's good because it is very light. However, the reason why I want to remove this wire because it is a very cheap, and as you can see when I cut it open, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's very cheap. It introduces a susceptible to a lot of noise. And, you know, you're not going to get far with this wire in terms of the performance. So that's the reason why most people that really are serious about modifying this, they get rid of this direct wire. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Again, before we begin, I just want to make note that I'm not responsible for any damage that you might do to your antenna, MLA-30. I'm only doing this because several people asked me how to install BNC connector. I mean, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, but I'm going to go ahead as best as possible and show you how I did it. This is my second one I will be doing. My first one is on the roof with the BNC connector, a ferrite clip inside, bead, and it has a copper tube as the coil, as the element, excuse me. And that one is working well. That one it's up on the roof. And this is going to be my second one. Eventually I will get a third one, and that one I'm going to leave it as is for when I travel because it is lightweight if you leave it as is. However, this is going to be just a second one to have it around the yard. And I really am not a fan of this cable. I think this cable is junk. And I'll show you when I open it and I cut it and I open it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So tools you're gonna need is a Phillips screwdriver. You're gonna need something to cut the wire. In my case, dikes, diagonal cutters, wire stripper, and this is gonna be for the outer shield. Okay, now for the inner shield, it's much more trickier. Of course, you can also use a box cutter if you're very for the outer shield, you don't really need a box cutter. You can just use a wire stripper. For me, it worked fine. Of course, you have to be careful whatever you do. Just keep that in mind. Be careful. Be patient. You know, take your time. Especially in my case, you know, I'm my eyesight and so on. So. You can use X-Acto knife, scalpel. Now for the inner shield, you can use that also to get the inner conductor out. However, I found that the inner conductor is very tricky. I had the first one, I had trouble with it, and I wound up using just melting the shield for the inner conductor. I just wound up melting it with one of these. Just heat it up, melt the plastic off. And I took care of that for the inner conductor. Okay, not the outer conductor, the inner one. The inner installation for the center conductor. And I'll show you what I mean. I know my terminology is all over the map right now, and I apologize for that. So this is what I use. I'm going to heat it up with this, and it'll melt off in that way. Because the inner conductor also, it's not solid copper wire. It's stranded. It's very, very delicate. So this wire strip at the lowest, the smallest diameter is not going to do it. I tried it. tried and failed, and the best method for me was to melt the shielding, okay, on the inner conductor, and that worked better. And it was clean, and that's why I have the sponge there, so I can just wipe it right off. Because this is when you get down there, it's not gonna do the job. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus here, but there you go. All right, so we got that. For the BNC itself, you're gonna need a 1/2 inch wrench, because you have this nut here is a 1/2 inch nut. Okay, I'm trying to focus in there. 1/2 inch nut, okay? So you're gonna need that wrench for that. And it's gonna be tight in there when you put this. Now, the reason why I went with BNC also because of the box. Unless you plan to go to, I seen people switch this cable to another box. I don't want to do all that. I want to go right in there. SO239 is going to be too big for this. It's not going to clear. Because the box opens right here. You can see it opens right here. So you have enough room for a BNC connector, and that's it. You cannot go bigger than the BNC connector. Unless you sacrifice some of this cover on the top, and you can't do that because, I mean, you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend doing that because in here you have a gasket. And this is why it's water sealed. There's a gasket in there, and I'll show you how to deal with that. So there you go. So you're going to need those tools. You're going to need a drill with a 1/2 inch bit. Okay, you're going to need that to drill to make this hole bigger. Once you take this wire out, you cut it, and you're going to take the wire out. You're going to have to make that hole bigger, obviously, for obvious reasons, to put the new one in. Okay, and also, let's see, I think that's it. Those are the main tools you need. And in my case, I have a rounded file. This is a bigger one because my bit is a little bit smaller, so it's gonna be a smaller hole, so I'm gonna make it bigger with this file because it's plastic. It's just make it bigger, rough it, and then I'll take sandpaper and clean it up a little bit. And I like to really, I like to be tidy and all that. Okay, so that's the list of tools you're gonna need, and let's begin. First thing we're gonna do, you're gonna be a cutter. We're gonna cut this off. There you go. You're gonna get rid of this. You're not gonna need this. I mean, you can save this cable for another project or whatever. Me, I don't know. I'll try to keep it with the junk pile somewhere. Okay, and there you go. And cut that out. Next step is to remove all these 4 screws. I went ahead and removed the 4 screws, and this is it right here. Now I want to make a note. I want to show you something. There is a white gasket in there. Okay. This one, it looks like it's pretty packed in there, so I'm not gonna I'm gonna leave it alone because I want to put it the way it was. However, on my previous modification, the gasket just fell right off. So when you put it back, make sure you put it back the way it was in there. Okay, it goes on the lid and not around the. Don't put the gasket around here. Put it inside the lid. It will make your life a lot easier, and that's the way it's supposed to be anyway. I'm just bringing that out because it caused a little bit of confusion at first. But once I figured it out, I just put it right in there, tuck it in there, it'll be fine. Okay, because that's going to be your waterproof. That is for the waterproofing. So no water doesn't get into this gasket. Okay, so I just want to make sure I cover that. Okay, so this is it. Okay, and you have your potentiometer right here. I have not messed with that on my other ones. I figured I'll leave it as is for now. Of course, you're not gonna be able to just pull this right away because there is some hot wax there with a glue gun. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that first, and then I will be able to pull this cable out. Okay. Now for that, it looks like it would be so that way. The reason why they put that so that way it doesn't it keeps it still. They put like hot glue, whatever. You gotta be careful when you take that out. I just used a knife and I was able to get it out, and there you go. Okay, and this will just fall right off, and this hot glue, whatever it is, there you go. So now this is what you want. You want to pull this out, and this is good to work with right here. But figure about this much is the little chips and the little flaking. Okay, so this is more or less. I'm gonna cut a little less because I want to have it like enough to, in case I mess up. Okay, this is a little too long. I'm gonna cut a little short, and then we're gonna strip it. But this is what. Okay. Now I want to have some enough room that, like I said, I want to be able to work the wire and be comfortable with it. I don't want to cut it like really tight and then have no margin for error. Okay, that's why I say I have a rule where having enough curl it in there. So I figure I'm going to cut about another 4 inches out of this one. So we're going to cut that. All right, so let's see. I want to get it like there because I plan to put a ferrite bead here. So I want to work with this much. So let's get rid of about that. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So we're gonna work that, and then we're gonna work that, and then I might have to cut a little bit more, but just want to have enough room where even if I mess up on the first try, I still got another try or two. Okay. Before I proceed, this is my method to get rid of this outer plastic. You can use, like I said, mine is going to be a wire stripper, but you can use a blade or whatever, or a box cutter or whatever. But you got to be very, very careful again because the outer shielding is very delicate on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this out. I'm going to go about here, about an inch or so. Get a nice cut there. There you go. Okay. And you got that's your outer shielding right there. And we're gonna braid that up, and then the center conductor is inside this insulated. Okay. And for that one, I don't know if you can see it. I'm just gonna try to focus. It is braided inside also. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and melt the center one. I'm going to melt that plastic right off. So before we do that, we're going to take this center, outer shielding. It's very, very thin, very, very delicate. And get all of it out and put it on one side. I just want to give it 1, 2, 3. Just a couple of twists, but not too many because it's going to start falling apart. Because we're going to tin that with the solder. We're going to tin that. So now we have the inner conductor. Okay. Try to get focus there. The inner conductor. Now we are going to get the center conductor wire out of this plastic insulation. And again, the reason why I'm just gonna melt it because it's very, very thin, and it's also stranded, unlike your better cables, which is usually a solid copper wire. This one is stranded wire, and it's very, very fragile, and you want to get as much of this conductor as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and melt it using this. I'm going to melt some of it off. Excuse me. Oops. I'm going to use this to wipe it off here. Sponge. Use some of that. Melt a little bit more. Sorry about that. Bumping that camera. It's kind of hard to do this and. Okay, that's enough right there to get a solid contact right there. Let me just clean that up there. And there you go, you see? You got a nice solid copper contact there. Okay? And of course we're gonna tin this, and then we're gonna wrap. I do not have heat shrink to isolate this one and this one. I'm just gonna use electrical tape, real nice and clean. And over here, same thing with electrical tape. But before I do that, I'm gonna tin this wire by adding some. I'm gonna solder some, because this wire is very fragile, and the more I bend it, it's just gonna break. So I want to keep it all in one piece. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tin the outer conductor first, just so it doesn't fall apart. Okay. And just enough to keep it together. Okay, I'm trying to get the angle there. There you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and tin the inner conductor. And like that. I know I'm in a bad angle, not going to be able to see much, but this is how I do it. Okay. Now that I tin the shielding, the outer shielding and the inner conductor, now we can isolate the two wires. But I don't have heat, like I said, I don't have heat shrink. I'm gonna go ahead and put electrical tape on here and here to separate them, so there's no way they can get in contact with each other. They're two separate. Okay. Now that I separated the two and I added the electrical tape, again, I have no heat shrink, so I have to make do with what I have. So I cut little thin strips of electrical tape. This is the conductor. This is the thinner wire, and this is all the braided copper, and this is the outer shielding. Okay, so I have them both separated now, and they're ready to be mounted to the BNC. Now before I do that, gotta make that hole bigger, okay, to mount the BNC connector. Now before I drill the hole, I'm gonna give you a tip. What happened before, when I on my other mod, when I did drill the hole, I just punched it right through. I almost damaged this coil here. Okay, what I'm gonna do instead, I'm gonna put a piece of cardboard in there. That way, when I shoot the drill through there, it won't. I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit here. It won't damage it in any way. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a piece of cardboard in there, so when I drill that hole, don't hit nothing in there that was damaged. Okay, so let's get that drill. want to drill slowly. You have to drill slowly because this thing will go through this plastic like nobody's business. There you go. Whoa, you saw that? Whoa. And there you go. That's why you want the cardboard. You see that? No harm, no foul. Okay. So now we're going to clean this up. Okay. This is why I'm making this video. This is you would think something simple like drilling a hole through here. You have to be very careful because you don't want to damage this coil. Okay. That's pretty close there. Okay. Now again, I cleaned it up, both sides. Okay, I used the scalpel just to clean up because when you drill, it's gonna kind of mushroom out the plastic, so you need to cut it, just really clean it up in there. And this is ready to be fitted. Okay. Now, as you can see, I'm just gonna make this note. This is pretty thick. Not a lot of thread in there, so you're gonna maybe have one full turn on the nut, maybe 1.5 at the most, to keep that together. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You don't have, there's not a lot of threading in there. As you can see, how much is this is pretty thick, and I found that out now. If you can get a BNC with a longer thread on this side, that will make your life easier. But this is what I had to work with. And it's something you're gonna have to. That's why it's gonna be. It's gonna be a little more trickier than what I thought because this is a thicker plastic. So keep that in mind when you're buying a BNC connector. Excuse me. You're not gonna have much room to work in there. But once it's in there, it's not gonna go anywhere. Now you can, once you put the nut in there and you tighten it. If you don't plan to ever do anything with it, I will put resin in there. Some kind of resin so it doesn't move at all. So that way, in the eventuality, when you put the BNC cable and you turn it, it starts to loosen up in there. Then you don't want to have to open it again and tighten that nut all the time. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and put resin on it. Now, I don't have it right now, and I'm not going to do it now. But the one up on the roof, eventually I will put resin on it. So that way it doesn't, there's no chance in the nut ever coming loose. Okay, so that's just a tip that I want to tell you. Now on the other side, once you put this in, it's going to go in this order. You're going to put this lock washer first. Then you're going to put this outer ring. This is for the outer shielding. It's going to be connected to this. Okay, so your outer shielding will be soldered to this once BNC connectors in there. So this is for that. And then of course you got your washer, nut, 1/4 inch. This is what you're gonna need to secure it. Okay. Now this is a very tight space in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put that all in there, and then I'll just show you how to tighten it. Okay. Okay, I went ahead and installed the BNC connector. This is a female and BNC connector. The lock washer is on that side. You can barely see it. And then you have this outer ring, and then this nut. Okay, this lock nut. Okay, and I use the, once I lined it up, I just hold on to this side because you're not going to have much room on this side to tighten it. And while you're holding that, I had to go ahead and tighten it from this side, and I got enough to buy. But I got about an 1.5 turn. It's pretty solid. A tip, if you're going to, because I didn't have much clearance on this side from the this resin. A tip in the future is to drill, instead of using that drill, well, you can still use it as a pilot hole, the original hole, but go a little bit higher. So that way you have clearance at the bottom on this side because of all the resin. So I had trouble in there. So, I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's tight. It's secure. But just keep in mind that instead of having center it right here, you might have to go a little bit higher just to clear that with the nut, because I had a little issue with that. Other than that, it's secure. Okay. So now we're going to solder, again, the outer shielding is going to go here. And the center conductor is going to go there. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that. So there you go. And solder the center conductor to this pin. The outer shielding to that outer ring. Okay? That's how you connect the BNC to this wire. Okay, and I wrapped it around here. Okay, so it's good to go now. It's ready. I'm gonna add one more thing. This is optional. This is something that I want to try out, and I got the idea from a smart meter. And I do this to all my wires, all my plugs, and I use one of these guys, a snap-on ferrite bead, and I'm going to put the link below. This is a 3mm one. This is a very small one because it's going to go inside here. And I got the idea, like I said, from a smart meter. I seen the smart meters have like a Wi-Fi type of small antenna, something like one of these SMA wires. I mean SMA, one of these wires. Something like inside your SDR, they had a very thin wire, and they put one of these. I seen them snapped in there. So normally, you can, of course, when I plug in my BNC cable, I can put ferrites all around. One here, one at the end of the radio. But I'm gonna put this one in here. I'm gonna snap it in here because I would like to minimize noise coming from the source itself before it there you go, you snap it right in there. They snap right in there. Okay, that's just my preference. I also did that with my RSP1 when I did the metal case upgrade. I did not show that on the video, but I went ahead and added that later because there is a little wire that's in there that connects the wire to the SMA. So I went ahead and opened the case again and put that ferrite bead in there. Okay, so now it's ready to go. Now it's good. Okay. So that's just my preference. I have posted a picture on this on my YouTube, the community tab. You can see the picture of it. So I'm going to put the link below in this. This was a kit. They have various sizes because I use these a lot. Like I said, I have them all over all my cables and all that. I try to minimize radio interference as much as possible. So if you want to do that, that's how I do it. And you snap it in there, and now it's ready to be closed up. Now again, before I close this thing up, remember the rubber, in this case, the rubber gasket is still intact. It's inside there. Okay, so white rubber gasket is in there. If yours happens to fall off, you're going to have to put that in there first. And then you can go ahead and line this up and close this box. Okay, let me push that ferrite bead a little bit down in there. Okay, and you can proceed with putting in the screws. So I went ahead and put the screws in, okay, and tighten everything up. The BNC connector is now installed. Okay, so this mod is complete, and the ferrite bead inside. And from based on what I noticed with the other one that's on the roof, this mod will lower the noise floor a bit because of the BNC. You're no longer using that thin cable. Now I can put, I have BNC, I have a thicker cable. I can put LMR 240, I have 240 cable, which is way better cable than this thin cable, than this, okay? And also I have LMR 400 if I want to use that. But right now I'm using that for my MFJ 1886 loop. But now I can, this does help a lot with the low noise. It will drop the noise quite a bit. Okay, so that concludes this video. Hope you liked the video. And if you do like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. And thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.